Welcome back, anime lovers. Today our story revolves around an average high school boy named Usato who accidentally gets transported to another world along with his two charismatic classmates. Upon awakening in the magical kingdom of Linger, Usato discovers that he has acquired the rare powers of a healer. While Usato's classmates might be busy soaking in their new surroundings, Usato's newfound abilities quickly draw attention. Finding out about his abilities, Rose, a healer known for her ruthlessness and unorthodox methods, forcefully recruits Usato into her rescue team, making him wonder if he's just traded school exams for magical boot camp. While he is initially shy, over time he grows in physical and mental toughness and selflessness to become a worthy member of the rescue team, determined to save other people, though he'd probably prefer it without Rose's boot camp-style training sessions. Usato is terrified of Rose at first, often feeling like a mouse in front of a lion. However, over time he grows to respect and even admire her. Turns out, under all that terrifying exterior, she has a heart. During his travels on King Lloyd's ambassadorial mission, he develops new ways of using healing magic the wrong way, as well as making new friends and allies among both humans and non-humans. The tale begins one rainy day as Ken Usato, along with his two newfound friends from their school's student council, Suzune Inokami and Kazuki Ryusen, find themselves in for a surprise. While walking home from school, a magic circle decides to make their commute a little more interesting by transporting them into another world. Upon awakening in the kingdom of Linger, the trio meets King Lloyd, who delivers the not-so-great news. They've been summoned as heroes to defend the kingdom from the Demon Lord and his ever-growing army. 2 years ago, the kingdom barely managed to repel an attack, and now the Demon Lord is gearing up for a comeback. King Lloyd also drops another bombshell. There's no way to send them back to their world at the moment. To add a cherry on top, it turns out that only Inokami and Kazuki were meant to be summoned. Usato, the typical high school student, was brought along purely by accident, like the extra fry you find at the bottom of your fast food bag. When the three are tested to determine what magical powers they possess, Usato discovers his ability to use healing magic. Though extremely rare, it's considered about as useful in battle as a chocolate teapot. Upon learning this, Rose, the captain of the kingdom's rescue team, immediately abducts him. Her training regime aims to transform him into a frontline healer, much to Usato's surprise and slight horror. Meanwhile, Inokami and Kazuki are trained as warriors, leaving Usato to wonder if he's traded one kind of homework for another, this time with magical push-ups and battle wounds. The day after being summoned, Usato is visited by Inokami and Kazuki before beginning his training from hell, which turns out to be entirely physical and not magical. Initially, Usato finds the training easier than he imagines, but it progressively becomes more difficult. Rose proves to be every bit the brutal teacher he expects, pushing him to his limits. After a few days, Usato's magic begins to manifest, giving him a glimmer of hope amidst the grueling workouts. Nearly 2 weeks into his training, Rose finally reveals the reason behind the intense physical regimen. He needs to be able to outrun the enemy and rescue injured allies quickly. Usato realizes that while magic is great, being the magical equivalent of a speedy paramedic isn't a bad gig. His training only intensifies. Inokami and Kazuki, accompanied by Princess Celia, visit him again and marvel at the visible progress of Usato's efforts. Rose drops the bombshell that she's grooming him to become her right-hand man. Inokami and Kazuki chat about their own training before departing, satisfied to see Usato adapting well to his new environment and starting to find his footing. Rose then takes Usato outside the city to the darkness of Linger, a daunting forest. She bluntly instructs him not to return until he's taken down a grand grizzly, a rare and evolved form of the blue grizzly. Usato gulps, realizing he's gone from worrying about his math test to facing off against something straight out of a fantasy monster manual. Rose throws Usato, physically, into the forest, and after a rough landing, he immediately faces 3 blue grizzlies, a mama, papa, and cub, all eager to make him their next meal. He narrowly escapes their claws by diving into a nearby river where he spends the night plotting his next move. The following day, Usato begins his earnest hunt for the Grand Grizzly. Along the way, he encounters an injured rabbit monster and uses his healing magic to help it. To his surprise, the grateful creature begins following him, understanding his commands as if they're old pals. The rabbit monster leads Usato to the Grand Grizzly's den, which turns out to be occupied by none other than the same trio of blue grizzlies that chased him earlier. Usato bides his time, waiting for the perfect moment to strike, all while unexpectedly encountering a massive white serpent in the forest. When Usato finally gathers the resolve to confront the Grand Grizzly, he discovers that 2 of the 3 bears lie dead, likely slain by the malevolent serpent he encountered earlier. Not one to let sleeping bears lie, especially when they've been maliciously murdered, Usato sets off to avenge the cub's family. With the rabbit monster as his furry GPS, Usato tracks down the serpent, only to stumble upon a classic showdown between cub and snake. It's like a nature documentary gone awry, with Usato jumping in to turn the tables, albeit with a few more hairy moments than he anticipated. Just as victory seems to be within his grasp, the snake retaliates. Just then, Rose appears from nowhere and rescues Usato. Turns out the rabbit monster isn't just any critter, it's Rose's own pet, the furry guardian angel who's been keeping an eye on Usato from the shadows. As Usato catches his breath and brushes off imaginary dirt off his hero cape, he realizes he's unwittingly passed Rose's twisted test of courage and grit. In a touching twist, the cub, now orphaned but with a newfound respect for the human who fought by its side, decides to stick around as Usato's fuzzy new companion. The time for battle with the Demon Lord army draws near, and Rose informs Usato that he'll be on the front lines with her, healing the wounded. Usato, realizing this is no small task, braces himself for the challenge. Meanwhile, the blue grizzly cub, whom Usato has affectionately named Blurin, joins in on his training. Blurin's role is to be carried on Usato's back while he continues his running routine, like an adorable yet surprisingly heavy furry backpack. Usato also learns more about the rescue team's somewhat infamous reputation in town. It turns out being known as the team that trains like they're preparing for the apocalypse isn't all roses and sunshine. During his training, he meets Orga Fleur, one of the team's healers, who enlightens Usato on the critical importance of having a healer on the front lines. It's not just about patching up wounds, it's about being the difference between life and death in the heat of battle. Determined to catch up with his classmates, Usato makes his way to the castle to visit Inokami and Kazuki. However, he learns that Kazuki is off on a training excursion in the darkness of Linger. Usato, now more resolved than ever, shares a quiet, reflective moment with Rose, acknowledging the journey ahead. With Blurin on his back and newfound determination in his heart, Usato prepares for battle, knowing that his role as a healer is crucial and perhaps a bit more action-packed than he'd ever imagined. Usato joins Inokami along with Knight Aruku and a mage on our training mission in the forest. Blurin tags along since the cub hates everyone but Usato, making it clear that leaving him with the rescue team would result in more drama than a high school cafeteria. On the outskirts of the forest, the group encounters a gang of bandits who seem to think they're the stars of a low-budget action film. The skirmish is abruptly interrupted by a stampede of boar monsters, causing chaos and scattering the group. Usato and Inokami find themselves separated from the others and decide to make camp in a cave for the night, because nothing says bonding experience like roughing it in a cave.
Oh my!
Meanwhile, Kazuki learns that Usato and Inokami have gone missing and tries to rush to their rescue. Rose, however, stops him with a confident smile, stating that if Inokami is with Usato, they'll be just fine. It's like she's seen this episode before and knows how it ends. As the campfire flickers, Usato and Inokami take the opportunity to discuss whether they want to return home to Japan or not. It's a moment of introspection between dodging bandits and boar monsters. The next day, the pair reunites with the rest of the group, thanks to Blurin, who uses his keen sense of smell to track Usato. The cub proves that even in the midst of danger, having a loyal companion can make all the difference. After the king apologizes for allowing Usato and Inokami to get lost, Kazuki reprimands Usato for his blasé attitude about the whole ordeal. Celia steps in, offering Kazuki some much-needed reassurance. Back in the king's throne room, Rose and Siglas receive a report about the bandits who attacked the party in the forest. These bandits hail from the grasslands, where creatures like the boars are fleeing their natural habitats, a clear sign of the demon army's imminent return. Rose is tasked with conducting reconnaissance to locate the demon army and to lead Linger's forces as she did in the past. She declines the latter, shedding light on more of her mysterious past. She casually mentions her desire for a subordinate who will never die, pointedly naming Usato as this seemingly immortal subordinate. During her reconnaissance, Rose discovers demons constructing a bridge into human territory and promptly destroys it, proving once again that she's not one for subtlety. She sends Usato to deliver a letter to Orga. While there, Usato meets Orga's younger sister, Ururu, who is also a healer. She shares stories about her and Orga's experience with Rose, painting a picture of their formidable mentor. Later, Usato gets hands-on training by healing some injured civilians, finding that practical experience is the best teacher, especially when it's less about books and more about bandages. Amako, a fox beastkin, shows Usato a chilling version of the future where Inukami and Kazuki perish. Usato realizes that the stakes are higher than ever, and his role as a healer might be the key to changing their fate. Usato tries to find the fox girl to ask about the vision but has no success. When Rose returns to the city from her patrol, Usato learns from her that the demon lord is approaching. Rose then reports to the king, who briefs Inukami and Kazuki, telling them to prepare for the impending battle. That night, Kazuki visits Usato, admitting his fear of war. Usato offers him comfort and reassurance, providing a pep talk worthy of a motivational poster. Kazuki finds his resolve after their conversation, while Inukami, who followed Kazuki to check on him, overhears the entire exchange. It seems eavesdropping has its benefits. The next day, the king informs his army and the citizens about the impending invasion. Kazuki visits Celia and vows to return, trying his best to channel his inner hero. Blurin, ever the loyal companion, reaffirms his exclusive affection for Usato by refusing to let Ururu pet him. The rest of the rescue team readies for war, gearing up like they're about to join an action-packed finale. But this is anime, so there'll be a ton of flashbacks before that. Rose explains how she and Usato will operate on the battlefield, and he receives his official rescue team uniform. She tries to drill into him the most crucial lesson of all: never forget the value of his own life on the battlefield. Usato nods, trying to balance the weight of his new uniform with the even heavier responsibility that comes with it. Linger's forces march to the battlefield. Rose flashes back to 2 years ago when she was still a knight. Her first team is introduced and their fateful mission begins, initially slow and uneventful. Rose and her deputy commander, Owl, share a heart-to-heart, revealing Usato's striking similarities to Owl, both in their spirit and potential. The next day, the team continues their reconnaissance mission and stumbles upon demons hunting monsters in human territory as part of a hidden scheme. Rose tries to resolve the situation peacefully, but negotiations fall apart faster than a cheap toy, and the demons attack. Rose targets their leader, Nero Origins, who may or may not have been isekai'd himself from another anime called Voltus 5, catching him off guard with her remarkable strength, speed, and healing magic. It's like she's a one-woman superhero team, much to Nero's shock and dismay. The flashback provides a glimpse into Rose's past battles and the experiences that shaped her into the formidable leader she is today, setting the stage for the current conflict. The flashback continues as Rose's team battles the demons while she engages in a fierce duel with Nero. Nero unleashes a cursed blade and a dark power that turns the tide of battle, making the other demons stronger, immune to their own pain, and willing to sacrifice their lives without hesitation. One of Rose's squad members is killed, shocking and discouraging the others, leading to the swift demise of the rest of her team. Overwhelmed by grief and anger, Rose loses her composure and, in the chaos, her right eye to Nero's cursed blade. The wound inflicted by the cursed weapon resists healing. Just as Nero prepares to deliver the killing blow, Owl sacrifices herself by jumping in front of Rose. Fueled by grief and rage, Rose overpowers Nero with a ferocity that shocks him.
Damn!
Before she can finish him off, a younger Amala rescues Nero. Rose, emotionally devastated, is unable to give chase. Later, Rose debriefs the king, requesting to be demoted and mourning her fallen team, blaming herself for their deaths. About a month later, Rose recovers enough to decide to create the rescue team, determined to prevent such losses in the future. Back in the present, Rose commends Usato for his accomplishments. She sees in him the same potential and spirit that once defined Owl, feeling a mix of pride and a deep sense of responsibility to guide him wisely. At the Vanguard camp, Usato wakes early and encounters Inukami, who seems far too excited for a battlefield, as if she's about to attend a concert instead of a war. Kazuki rescues him from her fangirl moment, pulling her away to meet with Siglis. Usato feels like he just escaped a whirlwind of energy, half expecting Inukami to start asking for photographs. As the day progresses, the battle begins. Usato, Rose, Orga, and Ururu remain at camp, ready to tend to the wounded, while the other team members bring the injured back from the front lines. Just as things seem to be calming down, another giant white serpent slithers onto the battlefield, making Usato briefly consider a career change. And if that wasn't enough, the Black Knight appears, who can't be harmed due to its unique reflection magic. Realizing the urgency, Usato and Rose finally plunge into battle, separating to cover more ground. Rose gives Usato one last piece of training advice that basically boils down to don't die, which Usato takes to heart with a nervous chuckle. As Usato works to heal the injured, a haunting vision of Inokami and Kazuki dying at the Black Knight's hand replays in his mind, causing him immense pain. He briefly wonders if there's a return policy on premonitions because he would definitely like to send this one back. Meanwhile, Inokami and Kazuki, unaware of Usato's vision, confront the Black Knight. Their own attacks are turned against them by the dreaded reflection magic. Usato, feeling the weight of his premonition and the agony of his friend's potential fate, rushes to find a way to save them. A flashback to Japan reveals Inokami's perspective, where she reminisces about meeting Usato for the first time. Initially, she thought he was just another ordinary student, but his kind-hearted nature and resilience in their new world quickly changed her mind. She remembers how their friendship blossomed amidst the chaos, each new challenge bringing them closer. Back on the battlefield, Usato arrives just in time to save Inokami and Kazuki, landing a powerful punch on the Black Knight and damaging her armor. The Black Knight, who is revealed to be female, is furious at being hit and actually injured. She chases Usato as he tries to get his friends to safety. Usato, realizing he can't outrun her forever, decides to face her head-on. The reflection magic, which turns most attacks back on the attacker, appears useless against Usato's healing magic, giving him the upper hand. After a swift and intense battle, Usato destroys the Black Knight's armor with his ultimate healing punch, knocking her unconscious. He then tends to the wounded and the demon army begins to break, preventing further injuries. Meanwhile, the giant white serpent continues to wreak havoc. Inokami and Kazuki, fueled by their earlier close call, take on the serpent and manage to kill it, adding a snakeskin rug to their list of victories. Upon learning of the Black Knight's defeat, Amala orders the demons to retreat. Rose and Usato head back to camp, where Rose commends Usato for his bravery and quick thinking. She praises him for saving the heroes and defeating the Black Knight. She's like a proud coach at the Olympics, except instead of medals, they're dealing with demons and knights.
Good job!
After returning from battle and being officially commended, Usato is summoned back to the castle. On his way there, he is mobbed by grateful citizens, each eager to thank their newfound hero. It feels like he's suddenly become the town's favorite celebrity, though he's not quite sure how to handle all the attention. At the castle, the king requests that Usato speak to the Black Knight, who refuses to divulge information unless she can meet with him. Usato's thinking he'd have better luck negotiating with a stone wall. Inokami tags along with him and Siglas. Usato learns from Siglas that dark magic and healing magic essentially cancel each other out. Realizing that none of the damage he inflicted on the Black Knight has healed, Usato understands she's likely in critical condition. With his healing magic, Usato properly heals the Black Knight, driving her to tears from the warmth and relief it brings. It's not every day that a villainous knight ends up sobbing in your arms because you fixed them up, but Usato is getting used to strange days. Later, Rose begins training Usato in dodging attacks. She emphasizes that healing injuries caused by cursed weapons is impossible, so he needs to practice properly avoiding being hit. Usato, feeling like a human punching bag, complains about his harsh training to the Black Knight, whom he has been visiting regularly. His gripes about Rose's training regimen elicit a rare chuckle from her. Rose meets with the king and, under his orders, offers the Black Knight a choice: rot in a cell or be trained by her as part of the rescue team. Of course, this isn't much of a choice since Rose takes her by force anyway after sealing her dark magic away. Rose then informs Usato that he, Inokami, and Kazuki will soon be tasked by the king with delivering official missives to neighboring territories, seeking aid against the Demon Lord. Later, while in town with Inokami, Usato spots Amako, who tells him her mother needs his help. Usato, always ready to lend a hand, agrees, wondering what new adventures awaits him. Usato and Inokami sit down with Amako at Rescue Team HQ, where she reveals her journey to find a healer capable of using healing magic. Humans are the only ones with this ability, and Usato fits the bill perfectly as both a healer and a fighter. Determined to help, Usato decides to use the diplomatic mission as a pretext to venture into Beastkin territory and rescue Amako's mother. Apparently, these folks value their Oracles of Time, aka Amako, so escorting her back scores major diplomacy points.
What do you mean by that?
Later, Usato learns that the Black Knight's name is Felm. In a gesture of goodwill, he gifts her a diary to write in during her training. Felm, curious about Usato's progress, secretly spies on his intense training sessions with Rose. Despite his slow progress, Felm is horrified by the grueling nature of Usato's training regimen. The king expresses gratitude to Amako for her vision, which helped save the kingdom. He gives Usato his blessing to assist her and tasks him with delivering missives to 4 territories on the way to Beastkin territory. Usato requests Aruku and Blurin as his special escorts for the journey. Elsewhere, Rose catches up to Felm, who had attempted to secretly tag along with Usato's mission after learning about it. Rose offers Usato some final advice and expresses her belief in his abilities. With their goals set, everyone sets off on their respective journeys, eager to explore new nations and meet new people. And that was it for today. If you enjoyed the journey with Usato, Inokami, and their companions, don't forget to subscribe for more thrilling updates. Leave your thoughts and comments below, and be sure to hit that like button if you're rooting for Usato on his quest to save Beastkin territory. Until next time, may your magic be strong and your adventures be epic.